When ordinary shadows take a life of their own, whispers in empty rooms answer back, and every mirror reflects a question that has no answer. Some places are never truly closed, they may just be waiting. Not every amusement park lasts forever. Some collapse overnight, others fade slowly, swallowed by the force that creeps back in. The paths crack, the leaves take over, and the rides sit rusting away. After a while, it doesn't feel empty, but like something is still there, waiting just beyond the fog. In an age of cameras and midnight hunts, silence has become an invitation. What may seem innocent from a time long gone often carries stories that refuse to stay buried, drawn by whispers, carried by rumors that should have been left forgotten. Hold your breath, still your nerves. Many hunts bring back more than you expect, and some places have secrets that had never stopped breathing with the pines. The sun struggled to peek through the thick clouds, and the mist clung low to the forest floor, curling between the tall pines. Three figures moved along a narrow trail, glimpses of them drifting through the haze. The path barely allowed for a single hiker, yet the three pushed along, stepping over roots and fallen leaves. They laughed lightly at the weather. It was supposed to be a sunny day, but the fog and damp chill had other plans. The towering pines kept most of the light out, letting only thin beams filtering down, brushing the ground in pale streaks. Megan, the brunette with the camera slung around her neck, paused mid-step. Something off the trail caught her eye. She lifted her camera, snapping a few quick shots, then lowered it to study them. She motioned to Alex and Sophia, pointing toward a barely visible glint in the mist. The three moved cautiously, breaking from the trail to get a closer look. Through the underbrush, they discovered a narrow, overgrown path, almost swallowed by the forest itself. After a brief debate, Sophia's adventurous grin made the decision for them. It was a challenge, and they would take it. The trail wound unpredictably, veering west, then east, then cut slightly northwest, deeper into the forest. The mist thickened as the trees closed in around them, and the quiet, punctured only by the rustling leaves and the snapping twigs, made the ordinary forest feel strangely expectant. The new trail wound deeper into the forest than they expected, barely wide enough for one person. It was overgrown in places, forcing them to step over roots and duck under low branches. At one point, they crossed a shallow, muddy stream. Mist hung just above the ground, clinging to their boots. Looking up, they could barely see the sky through the thick canopy, making it impossible to tell exactly where they were. Alex led the way, followed by Megan, with Sophia trailing behind. It was Megan who spotted it first, about 20 feet off the trail, partially hidden by vines and weeds. The square shape peeked out from the undergrowth. At first, it was impossible to tell what it was. As they got closer, it resolved into a small booth. Its roof sagged, the wood warped and dark with age. Most of it was swallowed by the moss and overgrowth. Only fragments poked through. A chipped panel here, the shadow of a small sign there. Alex crouched and brushed the vines aside. The word ticket appeared in faded, cracked paint, unmistakable despite decades of neglect. Megan raised her camera and snapped a photo. The flash briefly lit the booth, casting twisted shadows into the mist. Sophia stepped closer, brushing leaves from the warped corner, her fingers lingering where the moss grew thickest. A soft creak echoed somewhere far off, almost lost in the rustle of leaves. The mist swirled tighter around them, pressing in. Whatever had been here hadn't been touched for decades. The friends exchanged glances. Through the foliage beyond the booth, faint outlines of more structures appeared, hinting at a path deeper into the forest. After a short debate, Megan and Sophia agreed to follow. Megan switched her camera to video, thinking she might catch some good shots for her YouTube channel. The trail eventually opened up into what looked like a clearing, though it wasn't really clear at all. The grass grew high and tangled, the trees spaced just far enough apart to reveal outlines of something hidden in the mist. Rusted rides leaned at odd angles, booths sagged under vines and moss. The place was small, but it had definitely been an amusement park once. The Ferris wheel stood out the most. Its frame was rusted through and tilted to one side, the cars swaying faintly in the breeze. Alex started climbing. Megan followed close behind with her camera slung across her chest. Sophia stayed on the ground, circling the ride with a cautious eye. At the top, the view stretched for miles. The forest rolled on in every direction, thick and endless. Far off through the haze, a tiny smudge of rooftops marked the town. It had to be 10 miles away. Megan snapped a few shots at the horizon, then lowered the camera toward the park below. She caught Sophia poking around a broken-down gaming booth near the Ferris wheel. She took another photo, then froze. In the far corner of the frame, near the bumper cars, something colorful bled through the gray decay, a blur out of place. Her stomach tightened. She checked the photo again. The smear of color was still there. When she and Alex climbed back down, the three of them headed straight for the bumper cars. The mist seemed heavier in that direction. None of them said it out loud, but they were all wondering with the same thing. What exactly had Megan caught in that picture? After climbing down from the Ferris wheel, Alex and Megan found Sophia waiting near the base. She had wandered a short distance, but returned when she saw them coming down. The three started toward the bumper cars. From a distance, it seemed like a short walk, but the overgrowth slowed them. Tall grass tangled around their legs, while rusted scraps of metal and broken boards littered the ground. Alex led the way, steady and cautious. Megan followed close behind, adjusting her camera strap as she walked. Sophia lingered a few steps back, her attention caught by every ruin in the park had left behind. They passed a row of gaming booths, their paint sun-faded and peeling. A sign for ring toss leaned against the stall, the letters barely legible. Farther on, a food stand sagged underneath its own weight, vines crawling through the collapsed counter. At the next booth, Sophia slowed. Piled against the wall was a mound of stuffed animals left to rot. Their fur was matted with dirt, their shapes warped from the rain and years of neglect. Bears, rabbits, a seal, a raccoon, a clown, a dolphin, a squirrel, and a fox. All faded and frayed, weeds snaking between them. Sophia froze, her stomach tightening. She pointed to the pile, staring at the clown among the animals. Megan came closer, lifting her camera and studied the mound. When she blinked, the clown was gone. Only the ruined toys remained. Sophia's eyes widened, unsettled. Megan gave a small, reassuring smile and tugged Sophia's arm gently, guiding her forward as they caught up with Alex. Ahead, Alex was already nearing the edge of the clearing. Through the mist and the weeds, the shapes of the bumper cars began to appear, half hidden and rusted, waiting in silence. The bumper cars sat in a small, overgrown clearing, half swallowed by the weeds and tall grass. Their metal frames were bent and pitted, paint flaking off in dull, patchy sections. Inside, torn cushions and a scattered debris filled the cars, while moss crept along the cracked pavement beneath. Beyond the cars, a pair of small statues peeked out from the tangle of vines. The stone faces were weathered and chipped, almost forgotten under the years of overgrowth. Megan lifted her camera and snapped a few shots. Glancing at the images, she noticed something between the statues. She turned back to look, but the glimpse was gone before she could be sure of what she had seen. Alex motioned for the girls to follow him into the clearing. Megan adjusted her camera strap, ready to capture anything unusual, while Sophia lingered beyond for a moment, eyes darting from car to car, curious and slightly uneasy. A gust of wind stirred the weeds. A distant howl trembled through the trees. Sophia froze, glancing at Megan, who offered a reassuring smile. In the far corner, Alex spotted a faded newspaper tucked inside a greenish bumper car. Carefully, he picked it up. The date read July 6, 1938, and a small, barely legible article detailed a clown sighting. A black and white photo showed the clown, though the faded ink made the features almost indistinguishable. He sat the paper back down, leaving it where he found it, and continued on with the exploration. After leaving the bumper cars behind, Alex, Megan, and Sophia paused to catch their breath and scan the area. The overgrown grass swayed around their ankles, and mist clung low to the ground. Off to the side, partially hidden among the vines and twisted metal, Sophia noticed a small building with mirrored panels glinting in the fading light. The trio moved toward it, their steps careful over the uneven terrain. The mirror house leaned slightly, its faded paint peeling in long strips and cracks ran through many of the reflective panels. Vines curled along the walls, snaking across the doorframe. From certain angles, fleeting patches of color shimmered in the glass. The friends lingered outside, briefly assessing the strange structure before stepping through the narrow doorway. Inside, darkness swallowed the space. The floor creaked beneath their boots, and the air smelled of damp wood and old paint. Mist clung to the edges of the room, and the flashlights cut swaths of weak light across the distorted mirrors. Megan kept her camera ready, though the shadows and low light made capturing anything clear nearly impossible. Reflections warped and twisted as they moved, walls angled at impossible degrees, and their mirrored images stretched and shifted in ways that didn't always match their movements. At one point, Alex noticed a tall figure seemingly following them. Glancing towards Sophia, nothing was there. Megan snapped a long exposure shot, the result a blurry streak of color that refused to reveal its source. Unease grew, and the three gradually retreated toward the exit. The cautious steps echoed in the mirrored chamber as the distorted reflections chased them, leaving the funhouse behind and returning them to the faint light outside. The trio moved through the last part of the park, checking out the remaining rides and booths as the mist thickened. The wind rustled the trees, branches scraping together above their heads. Clouds rolled in, darkening the sky and blacking out the last of the daylight. A faint laugh echoed somewhere in the distance. Sophia froze for a moment, but Alex shook his head and kept moving. Megan adjusted her camera, but there was nothing to see, just an empty, overgrown park. They made a mental note of a few landmarks, planning to return another day to explore more. As they headed back along the path they had come, the Ferris wheel loomed behind them, quiet and still. At the edge of the forest, they stopped and glanced back one last time. The rides and booths looked harmless now, just old and abandoned. With a final look, the trio stepped onto the forest path, leaving the park behind. Unbeknownst to them, a figure sat silently in the highest car of the Ferris wheel, watching as they disappeared into the forest. Once they got home, the trio gathered around the laptop, eager to see what they could find about the abandoned park. They typed in a few details they remembered: the general location, the layout, and the fragments of information from the faded signs they had photographed. A handful of old articles and forum posts came up, most recalling vague memories of a small amusement park that had closed suddenly decades ago. The stories mostly focused on the rides and booths left to decay, nothing remarkable, until they stumbled across the mentions of a clown. Megan leaned back and started scrolling through her own photos from the day. At first, everything looked ordinary: rusted rides, broken booths, scattered toys. Then they saw it. In several of the images, a figure appeared in the background, faint, blurry, but unmistakable. The clown they had only glimpsed in the park. The three of them sat in stunned silence. The figure appeared in different places across the shots, always fleeting and slightly off, just as they had felt in person, but now captured clearly enough that there was no denying it. They hadn't noticed it at the time, not fully, but now the evidence was right in front of them.